In this presentation, we will continue entering cash outflows from our bank statement into QuickBooks Online. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. We are in our guitar lessons and equipment file. We're going to continue entering information into the register directly by going to the accounting tab on the left side. Within the accounting tab, we're going to be in the chart of accounts up top. We want to be in the checking account. We're going to be going to the check register by saying view the check register, please. If we then open up our bank statement that we have so far, we've entered data for the deposits, the beginning balance, and half or part of at least the outflows, which are mainly checks. Remember that if they're not checks, if they're electronic transfers, much the same type of process will be there. We're going to continue where we left off, now being on January, and we're going to have to assign, of course, these vendors to an account. Any kind of notes that we have, we're going to have our notepad open, and we're going to put any notes into our notepad so that we can ask all those questions at one time instead of stopping and asking either the client or our accountant, what do we do with this weird thing that happened here? We're just going to enter it all at one time, pushing forward, doing the bank reconciliation, then asking all these questions at one time to whoever we need to ask them to, and answering them that way. And that'll be the most efficient way to do it. Okay, so now we're here on January 15th. We have Verizon that we're paying. So we're going to go back over here. We're in our check register. We're going to make another check. And this happened on 01/15/19. The check number is 1011. That's what we want. Verizon, we're going to have to type it in there like we have with all vendors because we don't have any vendors in there yet because it's the first month. But the second month will be a lot easier. So we're going to say tab. We want to save that data, entering that data. We're not going to put a memo, but if you want to put memos, some people are really good at putting memos, and it's really helpful from time to time if you have to go back and see what is going to happen or have questions. Now, Verizon is a phone company, and if we're not aware of that, then of course we can Google search or search engine browse for Verizon and see what they are. Now, if we go to the expenses that QuickBooks has, we can go down and typically we'll look through the expenses, see if one applies. And we go through here and we don't see phone or anything, but we see the utilities. So we could choose utilities and that might be the way to go, or we might vary from this. We might say, hey, you know, the phone bill I think is something worth breaking out from the electric and gas possibly. And I think most companies probably feel that way. So I would think that QuickBooks would give us a separate one. But I'm gonna break this one out. I'm gonna deviate and find a different account. So we're gonna make another account. I'm gonna do that by just typing in telephone. I'm going to type in telephone. That's going to be the expense account name, tab, and we're going to say it's not, now this is important. You have to make sure to assign the account type. It's not a bank account type. It's going to be an expense account type. So we want to make sure we go down to an expense account type. And then the other side of it, we could say is some type of utilities I believe they have down here. So we'll keep it in a utilities type account. Which is basically a normal kind of expense account. It's not going to be a subcategory. That's all we need. So we're going to say save and close. So we've added that new account. There we have that. I'm going to say save on that one. Now that one will memorize next time. We won't have to add an account next time we pay Verizon, and it'll memorize the vendor for us. It'll be great. And then we have Epiphone. So that we saw that before up top, and we didn't know exactly where it went. So but it should populate at least the vendor. We have the vendor in place, so that's good. So it happened on the 18th, and we're going to say this is check number 1013. Notice the check numbers are not necessarily in order because we're not in order of writing the checks. These are when they cleared, so they may not clear in order, and that's okay. So we're going to say now this one's going to go to Epiphone. I'm going to type in Epiphone, and notice it pops up for us because we have that vendor now because we entered it last time. So we'll choose the Epiphone vendor. That's going to be, now notice it's memorizing the last transaction, 400. Now it's 360. I need to change that. But the uncategorized account is now memorized, which is great. Yeah, that's where we want it to go because we don't know where it should go. So we're putting that into the account that says we don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to push forward with it and keep going and then ask questions at the end. I'm going to write a note here and say, hey, on 1/18, we've got to ask a question about $300 or $600 amount to Epiphone you know, and we're going to say, what is Epiphone, right? And once we know who Epiphone is, and we've guessed up here that it's going to be a vendor, like we bought guitars or something. So if that's the case, then we'll apply whatever our rule is, whatever we decide to do, to all Epiphone, and it will be good going forward. And QuickBooks will actually memorize that once we do so. So we'll say save on that. Another one has been completed, which is great. So we're going to highlight that. Next one, we've got Office Depot. So Office Depot seems fairly standard. So we'll say that happened on the 21st. 21st, the check number for Office Depot was 1017. So 1017, we're going to put in Office Depot. And notice it's populating for us already because we've done Office Depot before. So that's great. That's how it's going to be all the time for the second month. It picks up the payment amount that we had last time, which this time is different. We have a different payment amount of $60, and that is not going to go into uncategorized. Why did we put it there last time? Because the dollar amount was high. So we have to change the account in this case, and sometimes that'll be the case. Sometimes the account won't be the same all the time. If it was Verizon, like the phone company, then the account will probably be telephone all the time. But sometimes Office Depot, we might buy equipment, and we might buy just office supplies. So we might vary our accounts here. I'm going to try to type in office supplies, and we have that office supplies and expense account. That's the one I'm going to choose. That's the one we want. So we'll say save on that one. And then we'll go back over here and say we found that $60. So we'll highlight that, completed. And then we've got next one on 121, hot air balloon rides. Now, that one doesn't sound like really a business expense. Now, it could be. It might be that, you know, for some reason that has to do with guitar lessons or something. But it doesn't seem like it. So that one, we're suspicious that that might be personal. It's not our job really to tell the client what's personal or not. You know, we're not giving advice, in other words, as the bookkeeper on, like, is it deductible or something like that? Or should it be business or personal? A lot of times, the business might even have an incentive to try to put personal expenses on the business books. Why? Because it'll make net income lower, and that'll make taxes possibly lower. And they might try to ask us questions like, well, and try to actually argue with us and say, well, this is why it's a legitimate expense. And note that we're on our side as a bookkeeper. If our job is just bookkeeping, if this is our personal business, we should ask our tax professional on that. And if that's our purpose of entering it. If we're just the bookkeeper, we're just going to say, hey, you know, you should ask your tax professional on that. It seems like it's something that's personal and not business, but we're going to go with what you say. So we're just going to write the note, and we're going to go with what you say. We're just doing the bookkeeping here. Any questions related to whether it's deductible or whether you should expense it, then you should, you know, consult your tax professional with that. That's going to be kind of our standard bookkeeping type response. We're not giving the tax advice. We're saying, hey, is this business or personal? It's, you give the call to us, and, you know, and we'll put it there. So, okay, so we're going to say that's going to be our amount, and we'll enter that into our system. And this is going to be on the 21st, and the dollar amount will be, or the check number is 1018. That looks good. And the amount, or the vendor, is going to be hot air balloon rides. Hot air balloon rides, and we're going to say tab, adding that vendor, saving it, and the payment that was made was $10.50. And so we don't know where it's going to, we're going to ask about this. So once again, uncategorized expense. We'll save that. We'll put a note over here, and we're going to say, all right, there's one, this is one that happened on 121, and it was for $1,050 to hot air balloon rides. Was this business or personal? Now, if it's personal, then we'll decide, we'll see some examples of that, and we'll decide where to go. For now, we're just going to ask the question. We're going to put it into our uncategorized account so that we know, we're reminded to ask that question all at one time, and then we'll go back and figure out what to do with it. So that's that one. We're going to say that one is done and done. Next one, we got Wild Bill's House of Ribs. Same kind of thing. You know, a lot of times we'll see restaurants, and they could say that that's part of their business to go to the restaurant, or that was you know, a business restaurant trip or something like that, part of meals. And so again, it's not our job to really do it. Our job is to say it wasn't business or personal. If they say, hey, if they start to argue and say, well, you know, I think it should be deductible and this and that, and we're going to say, hey, we're doing the bookkeeping here. We're going to take your word for whether or not it should be business or personal, and you should, you know, ask the tax preparer as to whether it should be deductible or not. We're asking you, considering the fact that it looks like something that may or may not be business or personal. We'll go by what you say, and then we'll put it into that account going forward. You can use this information then to prepare taxes with and decide where it should go from there with your tax professional. So we're going to say, all right, this is going to be on the 23rd, and it's going to be 1019, and it's going to be Wild Bill's House of Ribs. Tab. We'll save that, and then we'll enter that. Payment is for the 670. And once again, we don't know where this is going either, so we're going to say uncategorized. And the first month of operations can be a little bit frustrating, because we're going to have to figure this out, and we'll have to enter the vendor every time. Second month should be easier once we answer these questions. We'll say save. We're going to go back over here and again, and we're going to say, all right, there's another thing that happened on 1/23, and that was for the amount of 670 for Wild Bill's House of Ribs. Is this business or personal? Right? We don't know. So we're going to ask that, and I'll save this as we go, and we'll check out the next item. So we put that in, and we're pushing forward even though we don't know where these are going. That's okay. We're going to say Gregg's Plumbing. So all right, we're going to put that in place, and that's going to be on the 24th. And this will be 21. This will be 1021. And we're going to say Gregg's Plumbing. Now, we could ask, again, is this business or personal? We're going to assume that this is a business-related expense. So we're going to say this one is 680. So we need an expense account for plumber, like a plumbing so we're going to assume that that's kind of some kind of, we'll see what we got in the expense accounts. So we got truck, contractors maybe, insurance, we've got job, legal, meals, and typically maybe repairs and maintenance would probably be the most appropriate for a plumber. So that might be a logical thing. So we're going to go, we could ask about this one, but we're going to go, let's go with repairs and maintenance, given just the name here, assuming this will be a business expense. So we're going to say save on that one. And we're going to say that one's good. And then the next one, Sunlight Rentals. So Sunlight Rentals, so we'll go back over here and we will enter this in for the 26th, plus to the 26th. And it's going to be check number 1024. So 1024 is going to be the check number. And we're going to say it's Sunlight Rentals. Sunlight Rentals. We're going to save that as the vendor, and the amount then for Sunlight Rent 1500, tab, and then we need the account. Now we might wonder what that is what we could ask about that, but it sounds like rental of some kind. So this probably sounds, of course, rental possibly of the office building. So we're going to assume that it's some type of rental and see if we can scroll through here and say, how about we just call it rent and lease, put it into that type of expense account. Seems appropriate. It probably might be something we would want to ask about on the first month just to verify if it's not our account if we're doing the bookkeeping, but we're going to go with that and say that sounds right. So we'll keep that as a business expense for rental. And then we're going to say Epiphone. We've seen that before, so we're going to go back over here once again for Epiphone. And we're going to say that this is on the 28th, so I'm going to say that's the 28th. We're just going to, and the number is the 25th, that's right. And then Epiphone, I'm just going to type in Epiphone and say that's the one. The amount is being memorized because we've seen it before. 800 is the correct amount, however. And once again, it's going to go into uncategorized because we don't know exactly where that's going yet because we haven't. That's one of our questions. So I'm going to save that, and we can put that in our notes again. We're going to say, all right, then we had another one to Epiphone. We really need to know who these people are. It's for $800 and to Epiphone. What is this? And obviously now you can see that if we were to ask these questions as we go, we're going to get one answer and it's going to solve all these questions. And so we want to do this at one time rather than kind of asking multiple questions. We'll be able to go back in this and fix this very quickly once we get one answer or all these answers together rather than just stopping each time along the way. Okay, so we're going to go back over and say Epiphone. We've got that. Whoop, it's not highlighted at all. We only got Epiphone. Almost tried to highlight everything. Credit card payment here. So note the credit card's one of those things we had an issue of. We saw it on the checklist. It's one of those things that often causes problems for the small business. And we're going to ask some questions about it and see how best we want to deal with the credit card. And there's a couple different ways we'll be able to enter that information. So we want to know, hey, are you paying off the full credit card? Do you use the credit card a lot? Is it business or personal? And then how much detail do we want to input for the credit card? So if we haven't asked yet about the credit card, we want to get that information so that then we can decide best how to deal with this credit card. Because again, if they're only paying off a minimum balance, then what account do we assign the credit card? We're not going to, this amount here represents charges that have been accumulating and we don't know who those charges are for. We only know that the payment was made to the credit card company. That's all we can see on the bank statement. So we're going to need the credit card statement in some way to deal with credit cards. So that being the case, we're going to go back over here and say, all right, there's a credit card. We're going to say that happened. The credit card's on the 31st. Whoop, the 31st. And we're just going to call it Visa credit card. This is a payment. This isn't the charges, of course. This is a payment that was made for the credit card. And that was $850. And we don't know where it's going to go yet, so uncategorized. So we're going to say uncategorized and save. And then we'll put a note here and we'll say, okay, on 131, there was a Visa credit card for $850. Do you pay the minimum? Well, let's just say, do you have an outstanding balance or do you pay the card in full? We need the hit card statement, something like that, right? We need the credit card statement. That's the minimum. That's probably all we need because that'll tell us if they pay the thing off in full or not. But in any case, we'll word it better when we write the email. So that is going to be that, and then we'll go back over here and say the credit card has been done. And now we've got Adam and Erica. Adam and Eric. And once again, we don't know who they are. Those are just random names. They could be contractors. They could be an employee, possibly. We don't really know who they are either. So we're going to put them and have the same question. All we have is the name here. Are they a contractor? Who should we put these in there for? So we're going to say 131. This is going to be that. I'm going to say Adam Hamilton. So we'll add Adam Hamilton. I'm not sure. Hopefully that's spelled right. But we're going to say that's going to be 3539. And we don't know where it's going to go. Uncategorized. And then we're going to save that. And then the next item will be Erica. Same thing. So we're going to say Erica Robertson. Tab. Save. We don't know where that's going to go. For 630. Uncategorized. So we have a lot in the uncategorized category here. Save that. We'll make a note of that. We're going to say there was a check, two checks on 131 for Adam Hamilton and Erica Robertson. Who are they? What do they do for the business? right? That's going to be our question there. That'll whatever they do, that'll help us determine where we should go in terms of the account for it. So there are those two items. I'm going to highlight that and say we got those. And then these are going to be charges from the bank. So, well, this is a withdrawal. So this isn't a check. This is like maybe they took it out just from an ATM withdrawal or something like that. Problem here is we don't know what that's for. That's cash. So they took cash out. So is it business? Is it personal that he took cash out? Or he or she or the business owner took cash? Where should we put that? So we don't know where that's going to go. So we'll go back over here and say, all right, there was a amount taken out of the account on the 31st, we're going to say. And that was for a note. Note that you don't need a check number here if it's like a withdrawal or something like electronic transfer. And you may want to use, instead of a check, if you don't have a check, like you could just put other in the check number, not a big deal if it's not a check. But if you don't want a check form, you could go to like an expense form down here, and that just has a reference number rather than a check number. So if you prefer that, it's okay. If you use the check and it's not a check but just a withdrawal, not a big deal. It's basically the same type of thing. You just don't want to assign a check number if there's not a check number. So, which means you can just put anything into that field. You can put other or something into that field. So we're going to say this is going to be then 01 3119. So the end of the month, and we're on an expense type of thing now, and it's going to be a withdrawal. So we could put the owner's name or something in the draws. We might just put a draw as like the vendor account. That will help us to save it and save that. It's not really a vendor, of course. It's the owner that took the money out, and it's 300. And then we're going to say the other side. We don't know if it was the owner taking money out for personal use. Then we're going to have to do something else. If they took it out for some business use, what did they spend it on? We don't know. We could just put it into miscellaneous business expense or something like that. We don't know what to do with it. So we're gonna have to figure out from the client what they want us to do every time they just take cash out, which we would recommend that they don't do because of this problem of categorizing. It would be better write a check, electronic transfer. Otherwise, we have no audit trail, which sometimes is the point of pulling cash out. But we want an audit trail here so that we can enter the data into the QuickBooks system. So once again, uncategorized, and we'll say, all right, save that. And we'll put a note over here, and we'll say there was a draw for 300. Is this business or personal? What was it for? So is it business or and if it's business, we need to know what it's for to assign an account, and they're probably not going to know. They're just going to say, it's business stuff. And then we'll have to put it into miscellaneous or something like that, miscellaneous business expense. Now, hopefully they'll be able to give us a trend on that so that we can say, hey, what's going to happen in the future, and do the same thing every time you draw money out. I mean, every time you draw money out, should we put it on as a draw, or should we put it in there as a miscellaneous expense? What do you want as our system for that? And then we have the bank charges. So that's going to be money that just was taken out from the bank. So we're going to say the bank took our money, said we owe them for some things, and we could put the bank as the vendor, save that, and whatever the bank is, it could be whatever the bank name is, and we're going to say that that's going to be 150, and then some type of service charges. We could type in service charge, or sometimes bank charges and fees. That's the one that the system has. That's the one we're going to use. And we'll say that is what it is, so no question on that. We're not going to be able to return that, so that is what it is. So we have now entered all of the expenses. Now we could have entered some problems with it, right? There could be some errors, but we'll find those when we reconcile. So we should have found this number now. And note that if we have the beginning balance either from last period or that we just entered this time because it's the first time, and then we have additions and subtractions, the balance in our checking account should be this now, 36,203. If we go back over here, we'll see that it's not. If I go back up, it's not that amount, 36,528. And so that means there's some problems somewhere. And so and that's fine. We did that on purpose. Hopefully we did that on purpose. But even if not, that's fine, because that's going to give us an example for us to then do the bank reconciliation and find those items. So the next thing we want to do is just take a quick look at the financials just to see our income statement, at least at this time. Right-clicking. If we duplicate this tab, I right-clicked on this tab up top and duplicate it. Then we could go down to the reports on the left side in this duplicated tab and check out those reports. We want to take a look at the profit and loss report. And I'm going to look at it from the date of 01/01/19 to 12/31/19, January through December 2019, and run that report. And then if we scroll down, notice what it's building here for us. This is really the report that a small business would kind of need at a minimum at the end of the year to create the tax return. This is what you will be taxed on, in essence, is the net income being modified for tax purposes, tax basis, based on any kind of adjustments that would be needed. Notice what we have in uncategorized funds. These are all the items that hopefully we have also listed here. And even if we don't have this open items list, we can go into here in the uncategorized, and then you can imagine just calling on the phone a client or asking your accountant and just going into here and saying, these are the items I had, right? There's Epiphone for 400. Who's Epiphone? And once they tell us, we're just going to click on Epiphone, and we're going to adjust from uncategorized to wherever it should go. Well, whatever expense account based on what they tell us. And we'll go, okay, how about the next one? How about Gibson? Who are they? Tell us where that is. And we'll click on this and fix it. Okay, what about the insurance? Should we just expense that? Or should we put it over a time period? What about this 9,000? What is that? Is that going to be equipment that we should capitalize, or should we just expense it as like office expense? Vanguard Investments, is that business or personal? Should it be on this account or not? Is it investments like stocks and bonds? Epiphone, who is that? We asked about that before. We'll answer that question with that. Hot air balloon rides, that seems personal. Is that, where should we put that? Should it be personal or business? Wild Bill's Ribs, same thing. Epiphone, we've seen it. Credit card, can we get that credit card statement? We should need that credit card statement. Who is Adam and Erica? What do they do for the business? What should we categorize? And then the draw. So notice we can really just basically answer our questions by having this and quickly just fix it all at one time as we keep pushing forward, even to the point of reconciling the bank account before we get that question answered, if necessary. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.